all RUSD employees, and I think the proposed layoffs are heartbreaking. Although I understand management's position to decide on the options, I see a disconnection between management and classified staff. We are a family that needs to look for solutions together, not against each other. Our decisions today will echo in the future with people who leave the district and people who stay. During this challenging time, I urge you to get together with our union representatives and management to find a solution that is reasonable for all stakeholders. If classified employees see an honest approach to this challenge, I assure your names will be remembered as the great leaders you are. Thank you for your time. I know you will find the commitment, responsiveness, and wisdom Rialto Unified School District employees deserve. Kindly, Ana Garay. On behalf of the classified staff, thank you for your action to table Resolution 19-20-55. The district met with chapter leadership the next day and listened to us. After we requested additional information, we met again on June 16th. As you can see, this new resolution is vastly different. This new resolution is the result of mutual respect and teamwork. It shows equity and gives more flexibility. I want to thank Dr. Avila for his leadership and transparency with this process. I know that we can work together and continue to find ways to beat the budget challenges that lay ahead. Respectfully, Chris Cordasco. Hello, hope everyone is well. I am writing to you today to express my concern as a speech-language pathologist in regards to allowing special education department to hire another therapist in order to replace one of the retired therapists. This is very important and necessary as it will impact all of our caseloads, workloads, and ultimately all of our speech students. I personally ended the school year with 60 plus students in my caseload and had two sites, an elementary school and a middle school, which are located in opposite ends of Rialto. Having more than one site complicates being able to divide the days, times, in order to manage 60 plus cases, provide quality treatment sessions, evaluate triennials, initials, hold IEPs, etc. A few of our therapists already have 3 sites. Having more than one site takes time going back and forth from site to site to be in IEPs, complete evaluations, observations, etc. We need to have someone replace the open position. Please consider having this position filled. Thank you for your consideration. Roxana Maldonado. Good afternoon. I am writing to address the timing of this emergency meeting. These are difficult times that everyone is experiencing with the onset of COVID-19, riots, societal unrest, and economic hardships that most people are experiencing. While it may be perceived as prudent to explore the potential for budget cuts given the governor's fiscal projections, it is, in my opinion, really not necessary at this time and adds further stressors to people's lives that could be avoided for another year. Perhaps it would be better to table this discussion until there is certainty of budget shortfalls. School operations have been solidified and elections for the Board of Education have been concluded. Respectfully, Keith Rubio. Dear Superintendent and board members, what if? As a history teacher in Rialto, I often find myself asking the question, what if? When studying events in history, we must question why action was taken, and that leads us to the issue of what if? As an example, what if the Japanese had not bombed Pearl Harbor? What if the Constitution banned slavery in the beginning? These questions and the questions like these force us to look deeper at the actual events of history and try to understand the real context in which those events occurred. Today, our school board is going to make a decision, and I want you to think about what if before you vote. What if the superintendent came to you several weeks ago and said the financial situation of our district is strong for this year, but next year things are looking very bad, so here's what he proposed. First, we start with cuts at the top, which include that Dr. Avila would give back the $30,000 raise that he accepted last year, which would still leave his compensation package over $200,000 a year. Second, that he would negotiate for all district administrators taking pay cuts, but that all of them would still earn over $100,000 a year. Third, that Dr. Avila would ask the board to approve a budget, $17 million worth of savings for 2021-2022, but that because the state has not passed its budget yet, and we still do not know what the economy will look like next year, no official actions beyond passing a budget will be taken until we know more. Fourth, when it is time to negotiate with REA and CSEA next year about potential staff reductions, Dr. Avila can point to the cuts already taken by administrators and begin working together collaboratively with our unions to solve the budget issues. Instead of what has actually happened so far is that what has actually happened so far is that a week ago, a list was presented that included hundreds of jobs that would potentially be terminated next year. The majority of those jobs come from some of the lowest paid employees in the district. Strikingly, the largest single group numbering 187 people that are essentially instructional assistants who earn about $10,000 a year would lose their jobs. What is weirder still is that this action is for next year, but our school board is being asked to make the decision now. Why now? The state has not passed its budget. Other local districts are not taking action like this. School board members, as you vote tonight, please remember that people will look back on this vote and ask why and what if. What if you vote this action down and say, we will wait until the state has passed the budget? What if you wait until we are closer to next year to see if things have changed financially? School board members, if you vote yes to these cuts tonight, expect what you will need to defend that vote and have some very good answers to why and what if questions. With the election in November, some of you may have to defend this vote sooner rather than later. If you mishandle this decision, a lot of people might start asking, what if we had a new school board and a new superintendent? I was impressed at the last school board meeting that many of you were asking the right questions. Now I am hoping you will reach the correct conclusion that these cuts and this action is premature. I also hope that you all and Dr. Avila realize it has been mishandled and caused added stress and strain for great employees who are already feeling overwhelmed by issues created around COVID-19 and the social unrest. You vote against the cuts and direct staff to wait and bring this item back if necessary next year when more information is available. Sincerely, Tobin Brinker. Good afternoon, esteemed Dr. Avila and esteemed board members. I am reaching out to you to ask that you please consider the complete elimination of your Safety Intervention Patrol, SIO number 2. The number one priority of SIO number 2 officers is to safeguard the lives of our students and create a safe, engaging, learning, teaching environment for our students and educators. Under the leadership of Chief Gordon, Mr. Leary, your safety intervention officers 1, 2, 3, and safety dispatchers serve with commitment to ensure the safety of our students and to the building of trusting relationships with our students, parents, and our community. Safety intervention officers serve our students as mentors, counselors, protectors, and para-educators. Furthermore, we serve our students with compassion, understanding, and kindness. To completely eliminate your safety intervention patrol team will endanger the safety of our elementary school students and staff. I emphasize elementary schools because middle schools and high schools have safety intervention officers assigned to them. However, our 19 elementary schools do not. Therefore, they depend on the safety and security your safety intervention patrol officers provide. Before I continue, I would like to share a philosophy I learned long ago from my grandfather. I never met my father, so I was raised by my grandfather, who would often tell me, whenever he saw that I was worried or afraid of uncertainty, "Son, keep the faith, not the fear." Ladies and gentlemen of our board, of I'm afraid of the possibility that so many of you will lose our jobs, or so many of us will lose our jobs district-wide, and the devastating impact this will have on the lives of our children and our families. However, I have faith that you will collectively make the best possible decision under these uncertain times. In closing, I would like to thank you for your service and would like to wish a happy Father's Day to Dr. Avila, Mr. Ayala, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Montes, and to all the fathers district-wide. Peace be with you, Ray Verdugo. As you may know, a speech-language pathologist retired from our USD this year. I have been told that this position would not be filled. This SLP had a full caseload of over 50 students between two schools. I am curious how this caseload will be distributed among SLPs with an already full load. It is not equitable for the SLPs nor the students. This position needs to be filled to ensure all students get the service they need. Thank you, Crystal Smilden. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to reach out to you about the meeting being held regarding the possible elimination of the retirees' positions. I wanted to ask that the board take into consideration one of the positions being discussed is for a speech pathologist. I am bringing this up because I am concerned with the elimination of this position that it will negatively affect our students. Due to the end of the year madness and the uncertainty of the coming year, we are already at a disadvantage with meeting legal deadlines, IEPs, testing, therapy minutes, and are being called upon by the state to continue to hold the meetings as per their timelines, the majority of which are already out of compliance. This area will be impacted if we lose a position and have to absorb Mrs. Green's caseload, as well as providing therapy and other services to the school sites. Please consider this information when making your decisions. Thank you so much, Rihannan Cote. As a speech and language pathologist for the Rialto Unified School District, I believe it is imperative to at least maintain the amount of SLPs that we had last year and to replace the retiring SLP and fill her vacant position. In order to provide quality assessments and therapy to our students, we need to be able to have manageable caseloads. Especially with the novel situation with coronavirus, therapists are having to learn how to deliver therapy in a new format via online platforms, and this requires more time and effort on our parts. Furthermore, in order to take the necessary extra precautions and keep our students safe, we need to maintain our current caseloads, and to do that, we need to hire a new therapist. Otherwise, it would jeopardize the quality of service we can provide for our students. Jennifer Davidson. Redistributing this SLP position's caseload means that multiple SLPs, perhaps more than two, will be assigned to a school site. Having 3 or more assigned to a site can become very difficult for administrators, office staff, and teachers to manage, especially when it comes to scheduling IEPs. The SLPs sharing the site then have to plan accordingly with each other when to schedule their IEPs so as not to double book the required team members. Having one primary SLP responsible and perhaps a secondary SLP for a site instead of multiple would be a better solution logistically. Additionally, having 2 school sites do not equate to simply 2 different schedules. SLPs must take into consideration the schedules of all classroom environments, programs such as general education, RSP, SDC, life skills, behavior, etc., as well as consider the appropriate speech intervention setting for each child. SLPs also have monthly collaboration meetings and staffing meetings as required by the district. We have to adjust our therapy schedules accordingly, and as a result, most, if not all, SLPs take out time for testing, evaluation report writing, and IEP writing in order to accommodate for these meetings. This creates less opportunity to conduct thorough evaluations, and when you consider that most SLPs in this district already have 2, even 3 school sites, planning becomes that much more difficult. Ultimately, this affects the quality of the evaluations we conduct, which in turn can affect the quality of intervention we provide. Thank you so much, Kyla Villamar. Given COVID-19 impact of both health and fiscal side of things, we have to deal with the reality in front of us. The district's precautionary measure to lay off non-essential workers in the previous meeting should have passed. Those jobs we deem not directly related to the instructional needs of the students in the era of COVID-19. For example, why should instructional aid security be paid while they sitting at home doing nothing to benefit directly the students since the closure? Meanwhile, nutrition services, custodial, and others had to work throughout this time. The district took into account the necessity of those positions and their direct relationship to student learning. Now with this new resolution, everything is on the table because it's not specific, which to me means no one area is safe from layoffs, cuts. Now everyone's job can be argued to be non-essential to meet the $17 million desired savings, in my opinion. Miguel Favela. Good afternoon, Governing Board. My name is Raquel Castro, and I am a Rialto USD speech-language pathologist. There are 3 certificated positions that have retired this school year. My understanding is that these positions would not be filled next school year. Please consider rehiring the SLP position. The SLP position who has retired carried a full caseload of 50+ students while servicing 2 school sites. It is very important that her position is filled so that students can receive adequate speech-language therapy services, complete assessments, write legally compliant speech-language evaluation reports, and individualized education plans, IEPs, and hold IEP meetings within the appropriate legal timelines. Due to COVID-19, additional IEP compensatory services are now going to be required for each SLP. Every SLP will have plenty of duties to complete in addition to their assigned duties. These will include need to hold IEP meetings that were not held this school year, make up speech-language therapy services, and/or compensatory services. Thank you, Raquel Castro. Good afternoon, Governing Board, Dr. Avila, and listening audience. My name is Dr. Allison Jaffe, and I am a Rialto USD speech-language pathologist. There are 3 certificated teaching positions that were vacated this school year due to retiring employees. At the June 10th, 2020 board meeting, it was decided that these positions would not be filled for the upcoming school year. One of these positions is for a district speech-language pathologist. Please consider rehiring for the speech-language pathologist position. The newly vacated speech-language pathologist position carries a full caseload of more than 50 RUSD students and services 2 schools. It is essential that the position be filled so that RUSD students receive their mandated speech-language therapy sessions, completed assessments, legally compliant evaluation reports, and individualized education plans. all of which need to be completed within legal timelines. Due to COVID-19, the district speech language pathologists, in addition to their current duties, will be required to provide added IEP compensatory therapy sessions and to complete the resulting backlog of assessments, reports, and IEPs, all of whose legal timelines, unfortunately, were not waived by the United States Department of Education. Although these late timelines are due to COVID-19, failure to have met these timelines could still involve legal ramifications for the district. For the sake of our speech and language students who are covered by this position, I again urge you to reconsider hiring for the vacated speech language pathologist position. Thank you. Most respectfully, Dr. Allison Jaffe. Honorable Rialto Unified School District board members, as a fellow elected official for a neighboring municipality and as an employee of Rialto Unified School District, I believe it is my obligation to speak on behalf of those matters and issues that claim as passions and priorities in my work as a public servant and as a member of a labor organization. I work as a special education teacher with students who have moderate to severe learning disabilities in this district. I am writing to you to call your attention to the proposed budget actions for the 2020-21 and options you may want to consider before approving your administrator's proposals. I was recently made aware that many positions are being considered for elimination or layoff. As an elected official office holder, I readily understand and acknowledge that cuts must be made to balance budgets. Budget cuts are commonplace during economic downturns because revenues are projected to fall short of expectations. Therefore, very hard decisions must be made to balance the budget for the fiscal years which are impacted. I also know how important it is to keep as many people employed as possible during economic downturns because doing so can prevent the economy from collapsing at a faster pace than would be desired. It is my belief that public agencies such as RUSD have an obligation to keep as many people employed as possible to avoid such devastating impacts to our local and regional economies. As an elected official, I have an understanding of budgets. While cuts may be necessary, it is always prudent to cut expenditures and salaries simultaneously to avoid unnecessary job loss. The positions which you might consider cutting are those that are no longer filled due to retirements. These are considered the low-hanging fruit of budget cuts because these positions do not affect anyone who is presently employed. I strongly recommend that this be considered prior to any position being considered for elimination or layoff. Next, I would recommend cutting positions that have been added more recently and that are redundant within the organization. While every position can be considered essential, over the past few years, our district has hired vast numbers of management level positions. I understand that management level positions are highly desired by organizations due to the required schedule flexibility, additional work burdens and responsibilities that are placed positions, and all of this in exchange for the high salary these positions offer. Redundant level management positions also consume a great deal of the budget for salaries. The issue here is that many positions that were created are redundant without question. I have witnessed the district create and fill positions within the special education department for autism or ABA specialists. These are management level positions. This is but one example of management level redundant positions because our district already had behavioral specialist positions to support teachers. I highly and emphatically recommend that the board members request an analysis of district positions be performed to ensure category and position redundancies are identified and that unnecessary management positions be eliminated or reclassified as needed to prevent the needless loss of employment. Additional ways to cut budgets are to postpone projects funded by the general fund, eliminating licenses or contracts with companies that provide access to curriculum sites online that supplement classroom instruction and assessment. Again, there may be redundancies in this area that may need to be renegotiated, consolidated, or eliminated. It isn't clear that this has been done to prevent job loss. The question before you today is whether or not you confident and believe that your administrators and staff have performed the necessary analysis to identify the necessary expenditures and salaries have been identified and presented for your consideration to be cut from the budget. It is my opinion that if eliminating open or redundant positions has not been addressed in the proposal before you today, that the necessary analysis was not performed and that it must be done before you can, in good conscience, consider any positions for elimination or layoffs. It is also my opinion that if spending measures have not been considered along with a reduction in salaries, that an analysis and review of services, contracts, licenses, and other similar expenditures must be completed before eliminating any position. Thank you for taking my comments and for your consideration. Sincerely, Eddie Tejada. Dear school board members, I am a special education teacher and have taught Rialto Unified School District students since 1995. I would like the board to consider my concerns regarding the proposed budget cuts presented in this meeting. How are these proposed changes demonstrating that Rialto Unified students and staff are valued? Can we do better? Can Rialto Unified tap its reserves to mitigate the proposed 17 million in cuts before asking certificated, classified, and management employees to take a hit? Specifically, how much money has been saved in operations alone since March during the distance learning model? What is that money going to be used for? Students, shouldn't more cuts come from recently created positions, specifically programs and duplicate management positions, rather than cutting teachers and staff who work directly with students? Teachers are the most essential employee as we are in direct delivery of instruction. Other than a negative report from the county, what happens if we wait to see how things unfold and if more bailout money is given before approving such drastic cuts? What is the urgency in our district proposing these cuts when other surrounding districts are not? Thank you for your service and sincere consideration of these concerns during this difficult time. Looking forward to better days ahead. Kimberly Mihalski. Good afternoon, Superintendent, board members, and community. My name is Brenda Parker, and I want to first thank you for the hard work that you do to keep our Rialto Unified School District family together. However, I have to say that I am most disappointed and sad about this quote, unquote, precautionary proposal. I understand that there will have to be some cuts. However, as a RUSD family, I thought that we would all have done our part to keep our family together. The precautionary proposal is biased and weighs heavily on the classified side more than any other. As I look at the first proposal that was submitted, thank you Montes, Walker, and Ayala for not voting that proposal in. I noticed the total abolishment of certain positions while other positions had gone untouched. After evaluation of the first proposal, I have a few questions for consideration and maybe action. The first question I have is, what would be the impact if every classification had furlough days? Example, 12-month employees, 6 days, 11-month employees, 5 days, 10-month employees, 4 days. The second question is, what would be the impact if every department in the district made equal cuts, such as 10% per department? The third question is, what would be the impact if every person in the district took a 1% pay cut. This cut would happen before the precautionary proposal that would later be reinstated after the crisis. After evaluation of the second proposal, I am quite saddened at the fact that whomever put these proposals together would insult my intelligence by removing specific job titles and replacing it with just the estimated cost, knowing the precautionary list stayed the same but did not want to address the individual titles on the new proposal. I am not convinced that any changes were made to the new proposal because I cannot see the changes. Transparency is key. The first proposal, although not favorable, at least showed transparency. The second was not clearly defined and seemed to have a hidden agenda. Also, why is there such a discrepancy in the cut from management, supervisory and confidential, opposed to certificated and classified? Certificated and classified are all proposed at a $7 million cut, and management, supervisory, and confidential are proposed to a $3 million cut. Once again, let's propose an equal cut from each department. They all could be $6 million from each classification. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to make this precautionary equal for all employees of the district. Let's start there. Every department has to and should equally contribute to the proposed cut. If precautionary measures are done with integrity, I know we could do much better and save almost all jobs, if not all. Thank you for your time and immediate attention to this matter. Brenda Parker. Good afternoon, board. When I saw that several positions may not be filled from those who recently retired, I became greatly concerned. One of our speech therapists retired from our speech department at the end of this school year. I am worried that another speech therapist may not be hired to replace her. This brings about great concern. For example, this may mean that our caseloads, thus caseloads for the remaining speech therapists will increase. The remaining speech therapists will already be carrying a high caseload of their own, some including having 2 or 3 schools. Not only this, but having such high caseloads creates a decrease of effectiveness and efficiency of the delivery of speech therapy. The quality of service diminishes. Such uncertainty and worry of not having this position filled adds to the uncertainty, worry, and concern that we are already experiencing in the education world and our world abroad. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your consideration, Sharika Lyons. Good evening, Rialto board members. It has been brought to my attention that there is a possibility that certificated staff retiree positions will not be replaced for the upcoming school year. One of those certificated staff positions happen to be a speech therapist position. I urge the board to reconsider their plans for this decision, as the caseload would then have to be redistributed and could impact overall services for our Rialto Unified students. Rialto Unified has worked hard over the past years to fill all their speech therapist positions without having to contract out speech therapists. I worry that when speech therapists are given a caseload over what is manageable, it can cause them to look for work elsewhere, in turn possibly causing a possible domino effect. I think it is very important for our students that we fill the open position. Thank you for everything you do and for this consideration. Kimberly Somoano. Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Dr. Avila. My name is Rachel Warner, also known as Shelley, in the control center to those in the district. I am one of the unseen essential workers here in the district, not only during this pandemic, but 24/7, 365 days a year. I know you have thought about all the tools and workers that make everything work and run smooth in our district, but I wanted to take a moment and speak to you about our safety department. Safety department, which includes the dedicated control center, highly trained patrol officers, the very important intervention programs for the kids, our amazing and much needed EOC provides the around-the-clock safety and the comfort kids, staff, and community has come to rely on and depend while in our district. We are your instant and in-house information, your first responders, the people that take control and get a hold or ahead of incidents when they're happening or before they happen. We are also the ones that are there talking to your parents, staff, kids to assist and calm them down during lockdowns when their children go missing or any other incident that happened in the district. We go behind everyone after they have gone home to their families to make sure all the sites are secure and monitored throughout the night from vandalism, break-ins, and trespassers. We monitor all the temperatures for all the food for our kids so they can be fed daily and monitor the temperatures of all the freezers for all our special needs kids that need medicine throughout the day at school. These are just a few of the many important and needed resources the safety department supplies the district. I do not tell you I do not tell you all this so that we can have kudos for the jobs that we have been doing, but to show you and make you think about things that are getting done and also the bottom line, the money. I know you have to make adjustments in the district, but these jobs still need to be done. I cannot tell you how many times the parents and people in the community have applauded Rialto Unified School District for their in-house quick contact control center, intervention programs, and for the EOC. How the district has impressed them on the efforts and investments they have made keeping our children and our staff safe. It shows that the district care about them through all of our efforts in the programs that we provide to them. I don't honestly know how you can afford to cut us to save money. We were brought on here to save the district money. I want to close by thanking you for your time and for just thinking about every aspect of our department instead of just our job title. Please take a closer look at our department and other departments what they contribute and what you'll actually be losing instead of the dollar amount and see it actually adds up. Rachel Shelley Warner. And that's all we have.
Okay. Well, that's the end of public comment. So I need a motion to move into closed session.
Yes, ma'am.
So move. Is that Walker? Okay, Walker. Do I have a second?
Second, Montes.
Okay. As provided by law, the following are the items for discussion and consideration at the closed session of the emergency board meeting. And it is public employee, employment, discipline, dismissal, release, reassignment of employment of employees, Government Code Section 54957. We need a vote by board members to move into closed session. For me, it's an aye. Ms. Walker? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Ayala?
Aye.
And Mr. Monte?
Aye.
Okay, so we are moving into closed session at 3:53 p.m.
Okay.
session?
I make a motion to close closed session. Board Member Montes.
Okay, is there a second?
Martinez.
All right, and we need a vote by board members. Ms. Walker? Aye. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Ayala?
Aye.
And Mr. Montes?
Aye.
Okay, and Mr. O'Kelly is an aye. And we are adjourning closed session at 4:18 p.m. And reconvening open session at 4:19 p.m. All right, do we have a report out of closed session?
No report out of closed session, but I do have some comments on the item on the agenda, but I will do that once we open up that item for discussion.
Okay. I have to off the agenda. Does somebody want to move to adopt the agenda?
So moved, Walker.
And
Martinez.
Martinez. And vote by board members. O'Kelly, aye. Walker.
Walker, aye.
Mr. Martinez.
Aye.
Mr. Ayala.
Aye.
And Mr. Montes.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Discussion action items. Number one, action one, resolution number 19-20-63, precautionary resolution to eliminate positions effective July 1st, 2021 due to budget constraints. Can I have a motion to approve this item?
Martinez.
A second?
Walker, second.
Okay. And it's a long resolution, so bear with me while I read it. It's resolution number 19-20-63. The Board of Education of the Rialto Unified School District on June 19, 2020. Be it resolved that the governing board of the Rialto Unified School District hereby determines that a budget plan must be adopted. The plan can be a combination of proposed position reduction and/or a salary reduction across all employees for a total proposed cut of $17,651,128. The following positions may be abolished due to lack of work and/or lack of funds to mitigate the cost of funds. The position classification certificated, the estimated cost savings would be $7,101,684. Management, supervisory, and confidential. The estimated savings would be $3,029,084. Classified, the estimated cost savings would be $7,520,361 for a total estimated savings of $17,651,129. Be it further resolved by the governing board as follows. Number one, that any further actions to impose a layoff and/or abolishment of any position listed herein may be adopted by the Board of Education prior to December 31st, 2020, subject to any applicable negotiation requirements, law, and individual contract provisions. Number two, that the superintendent or his designee is directed to comply with the applicable requirements of the Educational Employment Relations Act with respect to the negotiation, reductions, or elimination of positions for the 2021-22 school year and thereafter. And number 3, that if any position from the classifications list above is removed from the list, an equal amount of salary will have to be reduced from all employees' salaries. Estimated 1% pay reduction is equal to an estimated $1.8 million. All right. We're open to discussion. Dr. Avila, did you have some comments you wanted to make?
Yes, I have a few comments to share. So keep in mind that this is all precautionary. And with respect to timing and having the board needing to approve our budget for the subsequent 3 years, those are our mandatory timelines that we have to comply with. Every district in the state of California has to go through the same process. And while every district, it may be in a very different situation financially, doesn't mean that they're not obligated to follow protocols that have not been relaxed during this process. And so accordingly, every district right now is in the process or has been approved, has had their budgets approved by the board, and many are still delaying their last meetings before June 30th, looking for different avenues to secure what they're hoping for is a balanced budget. Districts are exploring a variety of options just based on their needs. We in Rialto, relatively speaking, had very healthy reserves as a district, but nonetheless, with the 12% cut in funding, we were hit extremely hard. We did receive the $24 million or so in federal and state aid, one-time monies, and that is the reason why we have been able to delay cuts until the 2021-2022 school year. Many districts are currently struggling because they are going to be in a situation where they're going to have layoffs come July 1st of this year. So in a couple of weeks, they will begin the layoff process, and that's in many districts. But again, every district is in a very different situation, and so they're exploring different scenarios that will hopefully keep them solvent. The other, I know that it seems a bit disproportionate when you just look at classification of positions and the percentage or the total of money there, but it's really a reflection of the percentage of employees in each of the categories. While it may seem that management has taken a much lower cut, it also reflects the fact that management comprises a much smaller percentage of employees. But nonetheless, we are looking into those possibilities. The other thing, keep in mind that this is for the 2021-2022 school year. And right now, there's still a lot of movement taking place at the state level and also at the federal level that's really pushing for funding of schools this year. And so it's a waiting game for us, but we cannot build a budget based on what we think is likely to happen. We have to submit our budgets based on the actual realities that we have right now. But we do expect in the coming weeks, possibly the coming months, for the financial situation to change drastically for the better. So that we not have to act on the resolution that the board is considering today. The other options are still on the table, and as part of the resolution, there is the possibility of us moving with a reduction in salaries across the board if for some reason, for some bad reason, the financial situation were not to improve. And again, this would be still for the following school year. So we're good for this year, and we're likely to be made whole in the next few weeks, certainly in the next few months, if everything moves as anticipated, for us to be whole for the following school year, so that we not have to act on what is being proposed. The other is the reality of the closure of schools, and our transition to distance learning has provided opportunities beyond our wildest imagination. Even though many of those situations were very challenging for some, it also exposed some possibilities that we can do so many things differently, as many families have found the golden trail in distance learning and are not likely to have their kids return to school. So as a district, we're going to have to be able to transition to providing an education to kids through distance learning. And so we'll be able to explore that possibility in the coming months to see how the district can, when we would be expected to kind of return to what people are calling, the new normal. The new normal is going to be very, very different from when we left off in March. And so this is going to be an opportunity to explore, even position changes, titles, combinations, redefining position obligations. And so we're looking at the possibility of, negotiating different sets of positions because not all of our kids are going to return to the classroom for instruction. And even with that, the kids who do return, a lot of things are going to change. And so we'll be exploring the possibility of just looking at how we as a district can adjust, both in the delivery of service and in the role that each position plays, because it's going to look very, very different. Many parents found it, as I shared last week or at our last board meeting, they were thrilled with some of the services that were provided through distance learning, while others were not pleased at all, simply because the delivery was not necessarily there. And so they too are looking for change. They too are looking for change for their kids when they return physically to the classroom, and many are looking for change for those who are going to remain through distance learning. So again, this is an amazing opportunity, but more than not, I just want to reassure staff that we are expecting for full funding to come across in the coming weeks, and in the meantime, we'll begin to explore the negotiations of the different positions. And as someone mentioned, they were not listed, and that was in part based on our conversation with bargaining unit members to be able to then have a more thorough and transparent conversation over what positions we would include if it came to that. But at this point, I can tell you that I am overly confident that we are going to be fully funded, but I'm just as confident that things are going to be very different come not only this school year, but certainly the following school year. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Okay.
Question.
Now we're going to move on to comments from board members. So I'll start with Mr. Ayala.
Question.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Martinez. Go ahead.
I have a question for Dr. Avila, and this may clarify it for the public and for our family, our Rialto family. At this time, the 12%. First, the percentage could change, go up or down. But at this time, whatever that percentage is, we could just look at it as a percentage, and that doesn't mean jobs. That could mean pay. That means it's negotiable. And am I hearing right? Am I trying to express myself correctly there, Dr. Avila?
Yes, absolutely. So the 12%, we've had to make adjustments. And so we have not only in the money that was alluded to in one of the comments that we should have saved a lot of money during the closure of schools, which we did because certain expenses were not carried out. And so we were able to save it. But all those savings were built into the budget for the next 3 years. And so again, not only our healthy reserves, but also the money that we saved was built into the actual budget. And so with the 12% does not have to be made up through reductions in salaries. It could be made up through changes in expenditures, changes in travel, for example, changes in materials that we purchase, changes in how we, things that we do as part of our job function that requires additional funding beyond salaries. It could be changes again in job assignments. It could be changes in so many things. So a lot of the money can be made up outside of salaries. Keep in mind, it could be salary reductions. But also as far as positions, keep in mind, as I mentioned last week, that 85% of our budget goes towards personnel. And so it's difficult to make up a loss of $30 million with just non-personnel expenses, although all of those have been explored, all of those have been factored into the budget. Every dollar that we could possibly save, freeze in hiring and things of that nature, we've explored every possible thing to mitigate the impact on salaries. But nonetheless, what we have to submit to the county is a plan that they will approve based on how we submit it, in order for them to know that we have a plan to keep us solvent for the next 3 years. But anything can change. And again, I'm looking at positive change in the coming months that will help remove the proposed actions altogether.
And what happens if we do not pass a positive budget, or pass it tonight, or present a budget by June 30th that is positive?
So if we move forward with not presenting or offering the county a positive budget, again, they will immediately assign a fiscal agent to come and look at all of our fiscal matters, and will have absolute authority over how the district operates its money until they're able to create a situation that brings us solvency as a district. And this fiscal agent will, again, have absolute authority to make whatever decisions he or she thinks need to be done in order for us to become solvent. If for some reason he or she determines that no matter what we do at this point in time, we are just absolutely not going to be solvent, over the next 3 years, that's when the county superintendent of schools will take action to place us under state receivership. And then, so many things can happen then.
So short-term local control would go away. That means, as a former CSEA chapter president, I was taught that basically contracts and unions and board members all go out the door, and the administrator over the district would then have total control, just basically what you said. Thank you for answering those questions. I know the board knew it, but this is for the public and for our staff family. Go ahead.
Yes, and that is absolutely correct. It'd be absolute loss of local control. The superintendent will be replaced. The board would become an advisory board. It would have no authority over decisions in the district. The assigned, administrator would have absolute control. Unions would lose their authority to bargain, and it is a matter of one person making all decisions here in the district.
That's why I support having to pass this by June 30th. Thank you, Dr. Avila.
Are there anybody else have any comments or discussion? Well, if not, we can go ahead and vote on this if everybody's ready to vote on it. Ms. Walker, do you want to vote? Okay. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Ayala?
A strong nay. No.
Mr. Montes?
No.
Okay, well, that's 3 ayes and 2 nays.
You didn't say it, but I understand you are to be the third eye. Is that correct, President?
I'm sorry, I meant to say it. Yes, and the third eye. Okay, and the only other thing that is on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Martinez, make
So
a motion.
moved.
Okay. Montes moved. Okay, do I have a second?
Martinez?
Thank you. Vote by board members. O'Kelly, aye. Ms. Walker?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Ayala?
Aye.
And Mr. Montes?
Aye, aye, aye.
All right. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting at 4:38 p.m.
And just a reminder, be sure to turn off your devices, your phones, as you adjourn. Thank you so much.
Good night, all.